Hey, welcome back. We are excited to have you guys here this week, for our podcast on homeschooling, co-ops, playgroups, umbrellas, unschooling, everything you need to know to get involved any way you want in the homeschool community. So, yeah, today we're just kind of going over all those things. We're going to hit some statistics about homeschooling. We're going to talk about co-ops, playgroups, and umbrella schools. What are umbrella schools? How do you find an umbrella school? What is unschooling, which has become very popular? We're going to talk about that also.
I feel like this is going to be a really good episode for people who are on the fence or haven't committed to homeschooling yet. It's just a lot of information.
Yeah.
So a good place to start.
I feel a little overwhelmed by it because there's so much information that we have to get out to you today. So we're going to start with a couple of statistics.
Sure. Sounds good.
First, there's more than 5 million kids that are currently homeschooling. Did you know back in 2016 there was less than 1 million?
Yeah. That's a huge growth.
Yeah. Homeschool is the top growing education in the United States currently.
I think it just became like a staple part of education in America right now.
I think the pandemic really kind of shone a light on what was going on in our public schools and what the kids were and weren't learning. And some parents took a stand and were like, they didn't feel the education they were getting there was really valuable.
Or I feel like the time flexibility. So you got to see how much time your student dedicated to education at home and realized it could be done so much quicker.
That was us.
Yeah.
But then you start hearing about things in the news too, and it's like,
yeah.
I'm kind of glad my kids are not in crazy public.
I feel like politics got a little more involved during COVID too.
Yes.
In
definitely.
education.
Yes.
All right. What else do I have? 98% of the home educated students engage in an average of 5 activities outside their homes. So it kind of goes along with time that you're available.
When you have more time,
you can get involved in
do those things.
Right. You can get involved with more things.
Yeah. Like my son, he does drama. He's in a play. So, and then we do gymnastics and we do volleyball and soccer.
Technology.
And, weren't they? Yeah, he does. He's in a class where they're building a game. So it's, I mean, we've been able to try almost anything you can imagine, anything that's available. My kids have been able to go out and really step into that and try it and see if it works for them. If it works for them, I love to take them to those things. If it doesn't, that's fine. We move on and try and find them something else. But yeah,
lots of different experiences outside of a classroom.
For sure.
All right, Lindsay, what do you got?
Well, I would say that, we've been talking about the growth and how much it's really grown since pre-pandemic, but like New York and DC, they've seen an increase in homeschooling enrollment over 100%. New York is at 103 and DC is at 108%. That's since 2018. Also, South Dakota, Rhode Island, California, and Tennessee's rates are up. And I was thinking about that.
I wonder why those states.
I was wondering that too. I'm feeling, California just has such a lot of regulations, so I could see
it's harder to homeschool there.
Yeah. But I think South Dakota, it's probably because South Dakota and Tennessee have no state income tax, and they saw a huge increase in people moving there over the last few years.
And there's a statistic on here. Oh, Florida is the capital of homeschool. Yes. So Florida didn't have an income tax either. And we were just talking about how we didn't feel like we had a homeschool community there, but this whole time it seems like it's really, really, really grown up. But also Florida's seen a huge amount of growth.
They have, yeah. I saw a statistic the other day that in Tampa specifically, 2 in 10 students are homeschooled. So this lady was talking about a co-op she was in, and when she said when they originally started in 2017, there were 40 kids in their co-op. There's currently over 600 kids in that co-op.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Can you imagine how much that would take to grow from a 40-person co-op to a 600-person? I mean, that's
a lot of parental involvement.
Yes, that's a lot of
dedication. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And So I think that just kind of demonstrates like the arrival of homeschool as becoming a mainstay of American education. It's become uh, it's become pretty standard with a lot of families now, and I think that a lot of them are going that way, and people are just going to continue to go that way unless something really changes with our education system here. There's been a lot of failures in that, but that could be a whole podcast in itself.
I found some really cool statistics on like actual academic statistics for homeschooled students too. So homeschoolers have an average graduation rate of 67% compared to 57.5% from public schools.
10% higher.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And I know that's like, this is just a generalized statistic. So
really graduating from a public school is only at 50, what'd you say?
57.5. So half,
wow.
A little over half of our students are graduating public school.
Wow. That means a lot of kids are being left behind because, I was just reading another one that said 2 in 3 Americans are not, or fourth graders are not reading proficient at that level. And 2 and 3 American students are not reading at fourth grade level. And then that they students who have not learned to read by fourth grade, they're 4 times higher at rates of dropping out in high school. So it like that plays a big role for them in elementary school. Like you've got to get them reading and get them learning young, or that can change the trajectory of their whole life.
Right. We were just talking about, I found one that I thought was interesting because I have 3 boys too. So that's kind of pertains to me, but boys are, score 44% more in reading tests at home compared to in a public education system. So it goes along with reading, but 44%. And we were like wondering why is it so much higher for homeschool? And I was like, well, my kids get to read the books they enjoy, and it's not necessarily on school level. I think right now they're reading, not them reading, but we're reading to them like chapter books that are for 6-year-olds, and they love it. They're actually interested in the story. It's things that they are interested in versus what the curricula says you have to read.
Right.
So,
and I feel like with my older son, for a long time, he didn't really get into reading much. And then he started asking for books about 6th grade. And he was asking for adult novels. Like he was bored with the preteen books that they had available for him. And I know with my youngest daughter, I was worried. I was stressed. The worst part about homeschooling for me was teaching to read, because I just was worried about it. And it's really frustrating to be like, is she going to the store? Is she going to, and like the second times they come to that is word or whatever word it is, they're like, I'm like, we literally just did this word 4 minutes, like 4 words before this. And so it really like gets to me. It gets me super frustrated. So when she finally, like, it just clicked one day, I was like, oh, thank God. And now she's reading every book we have on the shelf.
I feel like that pressure is not there. You know what I mean? I feel like when you're under a lot of pressure as far as reading goes, it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth, I guess. It doesn't make you enticed to read.
Right.
I know that like after college, I took a couple years off of reading in general, like for fun, because you're reading, you're burnt out. Exactly. That's exactly it. And so finally, after we graduated and a couple years later, I got into some other, books and stuff. I actually wanted to read again. So to allow the kids to be able to read things that they're actually interested in is really fun.
I came out of my room the other day after folding some laundry, and we have a family room upstairs, and I walked out and my oldest was sitting in the chair reading, and I was like, oh man. And I look over in the corner and my daughter is sitting there with my youngest reading him books. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not completely screwing them up. Maybe I am doing something
You're doing something right. Yeah.
Oh, but it feels really good when you're there, you're the one there helping them and motivating them and keeping them interested in that. It feels good when you break through on something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, this is a good one, kind of out random. Homeschool kids tend to score 10 to 15% higher on their like ACTs and SATs. So for college prep, I know we were talking about your oldest. By the time he graduates high school, he'll have his associates, or he'll be
He can
on
have
track for it.
Yeah, and Tennessee has a really cool program where you can dual enroll, and at our college closest to us, he can dual enroll and he can actually get 10 credits free from college, just from doing it before he's out of high school. So yeah, he'll be almost to his associate's degree before he's even done with high school, which we were originally going to push him on that, but he he's thinking he wants to go into a field where he doesn't have to go to school. Like he wants to uh, operate a drone, and so I'm trying to convince him that maybe he should just do business classes or something if he wants to run his own business. Running drone pictures and selling things like that. That he should probably get some kind of business classes in, but
I don't know. I feel like
he thinks he knows everything.
How many business classes did you take?
None.
Right. I feel like business is one of those things that you just have to like pray about and jump in with both feet, and then have mentors. I feel like mentors are even more important than just like sitting in front of it. Like a lot of the stuff I went to college for my bachelor's in education, I feel like it didn't even really apply, except for like so I taught math. Like obviously the mathematics part of it, I had to understand and learn. But like the education stuff, I feel like I learned more from mentors who were teachers or in the education field versus in a classroom.
Mentors were huge for me. That's how I learned most of what I knew. And I'm not the type who would have sat down and went to school anyway. I'm more of a hands-on person, and that's the way I learned. So.
I think a lot of people learn that way though, hands-on. So like if your oldest wanted to have a mentor that's already in it, and since he's homeschooled, he could have the flexibility and time to do that.
So I kind of want to talk a little bit about what is a homeschool co-op. So we kind of talked about, that one in Florida that grew ridiculously huge. So a co-op is a group of families that get together and provide their children with educational and social opportunities. So we have a local co-op that I'm a part of, where my kids do 3 classes there a week. So they're doing like their standard classes that they need for school. My son's doing history, and he's doing ACT prep class, and a writing class. But and then he has an extracurricular he does there. So he has a shop class. So in shop class, they're teaching him to change a tire, change the oil in your car, how to repair drywall damage, how to wire up an electrical outlet, just like little things that you're going to need to know throughout life. So those are the kind of things you get from a co-op. Like I was really stressed about my daughter reading, so I was working on it at home. I also put her in 2 different reading classes, a phonics class and a reading class. So it's just it's someone, not the mom, not the parent, trying to teach them at home. Sometimes it works better to have somebody who's not the parent teach your kids.
Well, something I've noticed about the co-op is that a lot of the people that are teaching these classes are already maybe have some education background, like they're teachers. Like a lot of them are teachers, or there is some type of expertise in that field. Does that make sense?
I'm in a physics class. I am an aide there, and he was a physicist, and so I'm like, this guy's way smarter than me.
Talking a different language.
He's so like all the education that he had, like he's not a teacher, but he's, very, very has a lot of knowledge in that
so
area.
It's a mentor and an expert in that field. Correct. Which is really cool.
Yeah So these kids are getting a really good education without it being in a large classroom setting. I think every class has I think the most that they accept is 15. Some of them are only 10. So it's a very like small, group of kids that are learning together.
And it's cooperative. So most of the time parents are involved.
It's
whether they're volunteering. I know there's some co-ops where, I don't know if we go into this, but there's some co-ops that you can't just drop your kids off. You have to like volunteer and you're involved. And I feel like that actually shows your kids how important it is, kind of like when you're there and you're involved in their education. That's big.
I'm in 2 different co-ops. So the one we do on Monday that I was just talking about is the one where if you're there, you cannot leave your kids there. You're volunteering in a different class. I do the nursery and I do that science class. And
what's it called when you can drop them off at a co-op? I think
a
there's a
drop
term.
off.
Is it a drop off? I don't know. I thought there was a term for it, but
so
maybe
we have
not.
another one that is a drop off, but I just feel so like, I don't know. I don't feel right about it. So I always just sit there the whole time that they have a class.
More disconnected.
But,
yeah.
So we do have a drop off one too, where, I mean, my daughter is doing science labs there. So she's, getting her science class in and doing labs, and they got to dissect animals. And my son's in a brain class, like a psychology type class, and they're actually going to take an animal, like a goat's brain, and dissect it and learn the different parts of it. So that'll be pretty interesting. But
I feel like the co-ops that you do drop off are a little bit more expensive too. So that's another cool thing about different co-ops is the financial part of it.
Yes,
whatever works financially for your family. Right.
The ones where parents are
more
working there are going to be cheaper, cheap, because
like a membership fee, but you're pretty much it's ran by family.
Yeah. It's they're not paying anybody. Everybody there is there because they love kids, and they want to make sure that everybody's kids has a good education, and
which is cool because I feel like they're there for the right reason. You know what I mean? You don't dedicate that much time and energy and everything to your children and everything if you don't care.
Right. Yeah. And all their kids are in it too.
Yep,
so
too.
it's important to them because their kids are getting the same education. And then also something else, we have homeschool playgroups. So we find most of those through our co-op, or our co-ops also have field trips. So through those field trips, you usually meet moms who are in other mom groups and other play school groups and stuff like that. But you can also find them on Facebook.
Facebook was a big one for us when we first moved here to Tennessee. It actually was really funny. We showed up at the park with our kids, and they had a homeschool mom, like a mom's meetup. And I came on in with my kids, and I was like, wow, this park's really busy for the middle of the week. And no, it's a whole group on Facebook, and they've been life-giving for us. And they are a lot of homeschool moms.
In our area it's a huge homeschool area. Tennessee, like it said, is growing leaps and bounds with their homeschool programs. And
it's cool because on the Facebook they organize different meetups, so it's not always at the park. Sometimes it's at like the zoo, or sometimes it's at like local things that get your kids involved and you involved. And I've met some really, really great like moms and support there, and our kids
for sure
friends are through there, so it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it's not only good for your kids to have them in a homeschool group, but you'll find your people too. It took me a long time. I felt really uncomfortable for months and months going to all these play groups and stuff because it's just not my thing.
You find your people,
but eventually you will find your people.
Yeah.
You just got to push through the uncomfortable. So that's kind of homeschool co-ops a little bit, and play groups, and then we have umbrella schools, which are a completely different thing.
This is more your expertise, only because my oldest is just going to be starting kindergarten. I feel like this is for your school age students. It's like necessary for like regulating or government and all that stuff.
So umbrella schools, you have a choice. You don't have to use an umbrella school, but umbrella school is considered a private school. So you sign up with them, and they file all your paperwork with the county. They can give you curriculum advice. They can opt you out of state testing, which is a big one. Why I chose my co-op or my umbrella school. I didn't want my kids to have to go. So I don't know if you know, but when you homeschool, your kids are still expected to come to school for state testing weeks. So I chose my umbrella school to opt me out of state testing. I don't feel it's fair for my kids to never have a single test and then tell them you're going to go sit down for a week straight and do nothing but tests at a school you've never been to. I just feel like that's not going to give a real accurate picture of what's going on with them. So I'd prefer to opt them out.
And then I feel like the other flip side of that I can think of is I guess some testing. I don't know if is it always so extensive? A whole week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Do you remember when you were a kid in school?
Yeah, but at a younger age, I don't remember it being so long.
Yeah, it's a week.
I kind of blacked out during that week,
I remember my oldest did it in school, and they're like, bring snacks and send juices to keep them energized throughout the day. And it's like, they were sending notes home for like a month before testing started to be prepped and ready to make sure that they were there, and they didn't show up sick at all during that week of school. But
that doesn't mean you don't have to have any kind of like assessment to monitor your progress. Because as someone like me, I want to make like to reassure myself that, hey, I'm doing what I need to do and our kids are on task or on track, I guess. Especially if you're just getting started.
There's lots of websites online that can give you an assessment test of where your kids are at, but then there's states that require it. So like in Florida, they require testing or it's not called testing, but it's where you have to bring in, they're a teacher, and they come in, they assess your kid. You have to get assessments twice a year, and they have to be sent back to your local school district. So you have to send in assessments twice a year.
How did you find out all this information? Just a lot of research. Well, no, I mean, it's just helpful because I like, for someone who's never like on the fence about homeschooling or has never homeschooled before, to find this stuff. I'm not a go to Google person, I guess. I don't know. For me, it's helpful like to call your local co-op because they'll be able to direct you, or your local
school closest to you. They're going to know all the rules. They have lawyers on staff at these umbrella schools. So if you ever run into any legal problems with homeschooling or anything, they're your first person you want to go to. That's another good reason to sign up with them, because they're going to be there to have your back if anything happened. If you end up getting truancy or anything, they will bring their lawyers to court for you.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So umbrella school, there really isn't any cons to it for me, besides the cost. And some people may not want people in their business, but for me, I just fill out a paper once a year, send them $25, and I don't have to deal with them, except for they help me fill out transcripts for my son's high school. They help me get him a diploma when he's ready to graduate. So
a whole bunch of resources.
They're a really good resource for you. So I highly recommend looking into your nearest umbrella school. And for that, we have a list of them on MikeMoms.com for you. So we have them by state, and I tried to find as many as I could. So you should be able to find 10 to 15 for every state that you're in. So I highly recommend looking at that blog post and finding the umbrella school closest to you guys.
Oh man, I wish I would have had that.
I know.
You're so awesome for creating that, because that was a lot of work, but it's super helpful. I could only find
one in Florida when I lived down there, and it was Unschoolers. It was Florida Unschoolers. FU was the school. But I, if I would have had a list, I could have went down the list and called everyone to see which one would have worked best for me.
Because they're not all the same.
No,
they all have different things. Yeah,
and some of them require that you do the state testing every year. Some of them require your vaccination records, and just it depends on how much information you're willing to give them, and if you're comfortable with that kind of stuff.
How involved do you want them in your homeschooling journey?
Yep. Yeah, there's some that are really hands off and some that are
right
other way. And then kind of a new style of homeschooling is unschooling.
Oh, this one's interesting to me. I just joined an unschooling Facebook group, and the reason I joined it, sorry, this is a tangent.
No, go for it.
I joined it because I was trying to find different ways of teaching my kids.
Right.
Just out of the box, hands-on, outside, just different resource, another avenue, because I'm not the creative mind that can say, oh, let's learn it this way. But there's so many other moms on there that I don't. They must have been doing this a long time.
Lots of different opinions out there.
Yeah.
And for me, one of my closest friends in Florida, she unschools, and I was like, it doesn't even make sense. What do you mean you're unschooling? She called it child-led learning. I'm like, your kid's never going to choose to learn, which is not true. Your kid will choose to learn.
So what's the difference between unschooling and Montessori, Montessori style?
I'm not sure,
because I feel like that's kind of the same thing. It's student-led, teacher-led.
Is more where you have the older children helping teach the younger children.
Oh, okay.
And this is kind of like children. Unschooling is letting kids pick out the things that they're interested in, just following their lead. So if your kid's really interested in math and they're hyper fixated on it right now, let them do all of their first grade math in 2 weeks. Let them get it done. And then you can find something else that they're into. If they're really into art, let them do art for 6 hours a day. And then, the next day you try and work on math, or you go outside and you just play in nature. Grounding is a big thing of it. It's focusing more on what they love. And supposedly it's really helpful for their mental health. Also, it's a big thing of learning real world skills. I think a lot of people mix in unschooling with homeschooling because they're trying to teach their kids to sew and to cook and to do real life like taxes and write a checkbook, write a check or balance a checkbook, or so that kind of goes with unschooling. And then the downfalls I kind of see with unschooling is really there's no structure. Sometimes kids need structure, so that's why I feel like a lot of parents use like a balance. They use a little bit of here and there. Like I don't use one curriculum. I pay for like 10 different curriculums and I use bits and pieces of each one. And I feel like unschooling kind of fits into that because they need some kind of structure. And also there's a lot of knowledge gaps when you're unschooling. If you're only listening to what your kid wants, they're not, you may miss all of science
right
or social studies.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of gaps in there. So if you only unschool, you're going to want to think about how else can I fill gaps for them?
How else can you add structure back into your curriculum?
Yep. And then it looks like we are down to our quote of the week. Do you have one for us this week?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Education is every day and everywhere. The only thing you have to pay is attention.
Oh, that's homeschooling in a phrase.
Yeah.
That's just homeschooling with more words. That's a really good one. So try and take that with you this week when you're out there. Teaching your kids every day.
Yeah, I really recommend the information that you put together on the curriculum and stuff, because like I said, I really wish someone would have handed this to me and been like, here, look through this. It gives you a whole bunch of different information.
It gives you a path to start down for sure. Yeah. But that's all we have for today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So make sure to check out that blog to get your information. And then next week, we're going to be going over just curriculum, talking about curriculum, different types that we have, and what you should be looking for with your kids' needs. And we'd like you to follow us on Instagram, Kristen at Moms on the Mic.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, we're Moms on the Mic. Facebook group is Homeschooling More Than Motherhood. And always, you can find all of our information at micmoms.com. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you join us next week for our curriculum.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.